take off my jacket down. Cost me more than it did the ops a casket. So much head I almost died from it like Saki. Hit this bitch with my nails painted, I hold up. Shh. Somebody come get this nigga, he smoking that shit again. Us. Still this bitch, that shit sad. I'm finna hit again in a beat. Load it up. Send him home.
I'm the type of motherfucker nigga never have my hand down. Stupid motherfucker in my pocket, nigga know I got my cash hanging out. Big daddy on that motherfucker long way, know that bitch hanging out. That bitch lay like with the slime ball, know she like a hang out.
Hey man, say man, look man. Surprisingly, I did that on just my second try. It's hot in my room right now. I just did that. I did that on my second try. But hey, what's happening? This is episode 14 of the LazyCast, and I am recording this quite late because, holy shit, was that Warriors and Clippers game really good? And it came down to the final buzzer. So, hold on. I probably should have turned the air on before I did that stupid intro. But nevertheless, we back. So yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 14 of the LazyCast. I am your gracious host, Jalen. As always with me, Grogu, Bit Me, and Real Me. But yeah, the title is not a deception. It is not. Well, it's not too much of a deception. It's something that I generally believe, and yeah. But before I was really just gonna get straight into Luka and the Mavs. We kind of got to talk about that Warriors game, no? But you know what? No. We'll get into Luka and the Mavs, and also give my booking of UFC 300, just strictly of the main card. I'm just strictly going to do that because trying to do the prelims and the early prelims, gotta go crazy, and the video just be too long as it is. So yeah, before I even get into anything, do 4 things for me. It'd be really great if you guys comment, like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications and all that good stuff. It would really mean a lot to me. So yes, and let's just get into it. Luka and the Mavs are Western Conference Finals bound. Now, I say this as is you've been watching me for a little minute. If you've been watching me, whether it's been just strictly on YouTube or know me personally, or back in the early audio only days when I was on Anchor and Spotify, I'm a Bucks fan through and through, regardless of us being kind of okay this season. Not as good as I thought we should, not as good as I think we should be. However, I'm a Bucks fan through and through. However, that does not give me, does not let me talk about other teams. And from what I've seen from Luka and the Mavs this season as a whole, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I think compared to what a lot of other people, and I say a lot of other people, a lot of people was having the Mavericks as a playing team. A lot of people viewed the Mavericks as not even making the damn playoffs as a whole, based off last season, which is not, I guess it's not crazy to take, but I still, when I would hear those things, it's like, damn, like y'all niggas have zero faith in this team. But I get where it stems from. Now, maybe thinking to yourself, Jalen, why are you making this video now? The Mavs aren't going crazy. The Mavs, Luka, and why are you making this video now? For 2 reasons. One, the Mavs kind of are going crazy. They're the 4th seed right now in the West. And 2, Luka is having his rightfully so MVP nods and having an MVP season, and has been playing like an MVP for the past 3 years, but I feel like this is the one year that he actually deserves to get it. Now, obviously, we are very, very early on in the NBA season. We're only 18, not even 20 games into the NBA season, which is crazy because it feels like it's been going for a little minute now, but we're only not even 20 games fully into the NBA season. However, from what I've seen from this Mavericks team, and this was a team coming into the season, I had them being around that 4 or 5 seed. So expectation wise, they're meeting my expectations that I had for them coming into the season. However, when they were the 1 seed and only had 1 or 2 losses, and that little stretch that they had, they kind of fell back down to reality a little bit. But even still, it was still something that I kind of noticed and something that I was like, okay, I see the scheme that's going on with this team. One thing about the Mavericks, especially coming into this season, or playing this season, I should say, is a multitude of things that has been discussed with this team. One, defensively, they're not coming into the season. The roster is not good defensively. Excuse me. Yeah, defensively, their roster isn't good on paper. However, if you just look at the numbers with me, as we come on, we're going to look at these numbers together. We're going to look at them together. Offensive rating, they're top 10. Defensive rating, 23rd. Net rating, 17th, and 3-point percentage shooting is 11th. So, when I make this take, and even though this take does sound crazy, and am I saying this makes the Mavericks a finals contender? Probably not, because I think they are a piece or two away from really being like one of the true like contenders for best team in the league. Right now, they are one of the better teams, arguably a top 10 team in the league, and I think that's nothing crazy to say. But imagine if they did have, I'm just throwing out names here, a Marcus Smart, a Drew Holiday, a Jared Vanderbilt, a Brook Lopez, things of that nature. Actually, like true defensive stoppers. Oh, no question, the Mavericks would be probably up there with the Celtics as the best team in the league. I don't even think it'd be up for question. However, even with that being said, they have achieved or overachieved for a lot of other people. To me, I've seen this coming. I thought they were going to be good. I thought they were going to shock a lot of people just because for a simple fact of a multitude of things that I'm going to get into in a little second. So, but the one thing that's obviously the biggest standout is that Luka is doing Luka things. And as we go back, we're going to look at his numbers real quickly. Luka leading in all major categories, essentially putting up 31, 8, and 8. Is in, again, having an MVP caliber season. Most likely might get that MVP nod this year if the Mavs as a whole can stay somewhat healthy and play to the way that they've been playing. Like I mentioned, Luka having an amazing year, putting up 31 points on essentially 49% shooting from the field, 39% from the three-point line, and actually his free throw numbers being good. And that sounds crazy because you don't think Luka would be a poor free throw shooter, but for some reason Luka cannot hit free throws and come playoff time. Luka is like a historically bad free throw have like a bad free throw percentage. Niggas like down there in the 60s at one point, but to see it be up around like 77% is okay. And obviously 8 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, 0.4 block, and things of that nature. However, it's the supporting cast around Luka as a whole that's really has been impressing me. This guy, I'm going to leave him for last. However, look at Grant Williams, who hasn't missed a game, shooting 43% from the field and 42% from 3, kind of playing that plug-in 3-and-D type of role of a PJ Tucker or Rob Covington or things of that nature. But he's been playing really well, in my opinion. Free throw percentage, Jesus Christ, 63% from the field, not that great, but still putting up around 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and gives you solid defense as well. Tim Hardaway Jr., we know what he can do. off the bench, giving you 17, potential 6-man of the year candidate. Wink, wink, maybe. Shooting 42% from the field and 38 from three. Amazing free throw percentage, and also okay defense. However, while there have been significant, I guess, pluses added to this team, there's also been some downgrades. Josh Green has not really lived up to the hype that was there last season. Jaden Hardy really has been okay for me. And Seth Curry, God help this man find his shot, because back when he was in Dallas, the first time, man was putting up essentially Tim Hardaway numbers, putting up like 16, 17 points per game. And now he's only putting up like 3 or 2, whatever. So this is not by no means a perfect team. This is by no means NBA Finals bound team. However, this is a very solid and sneaky team. And as I'm just looking at the numbers, as you know, just looking at the numbers, you're thinking to yourself, Jalen, why the fuck are you just showing me Luka and Kyrie and a bunch of role players? I'm getting to that. Trust me. We're also going to just use based off a lot of eye tests. But before I get into play style, I want to talk about a certain 2-point guard, I guess, wearing number 2, who's been relatively healthy this year. Only missed 5 games out of the 18 games. So it's not too bad. Putting up 24-ish points per game, shooting around 45-ish% from the field, 37% from 3, 89, basically 90% from the from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 5.5 assists, a steal, on, again, good efficiency, low turnover rates, and okay defense. Kyrie Irving, this man right here, the disrespect for him for all the years prior to this season, obviously accumulating in Boston, when he left Cleveland, when he was in Brooklyn, the disrespect for him was very loud. And now that he's having one of his more underrated seasons, I hear nothing about him. I hear no hype or no praise or no credit being thrown Kyrie Irving's way. So with that being said, I'm going to use what a little voice I have to give credit to Kyrie. This man has been playing very well. Very, very well. And I would wish and pray that this man actually continues to play well, continues to stay healthy, because that's probably his biggest thing. His issue is that he just stays healthy, knock on wood. That he just is I really would want to see more credit thrown his way, you know, to have like the Stephen A's of the world, the Skip Baylesses of the world, the Max Kellermans, whatever, all the people that was very shit talking, like very vocal about Kyrie when his time in Boston and his time in Brooklyn, is that now that the brother is playing good, his mouth is shut, he ain't saying nothing, he ain't doing nothing. Now, Kyrie Irving is essentially non-existent. And I know just saying the name of Kyrie Irving being underrated, there's a lot of people out there that don't fuck with him still just because of him being a locker room cancer, bad teammate. Again, I'm not going to get into the whole semantics of Kyrie Irving history or whatever, because it would lean more towards, in my opinion, the media just don't like this nigga. I think it's just the media just do not like this nigga. Part of the reason because he left LeBron, but most on other reasons. But back to the Mavs. Like I said, man, offensively, one of the better offensive teams in all of basketball. Defensively, they're okay. Average, very average on the defensive side of the ball. You could say below average. However, the one thing that I argue for Dallas is their play style. Let me explain. We're going to look at Dallas's record. I mean, not record, their scores for this entire 18 game season. And it should be a trend that starts to pick up. We see games where they're winning by 5, winning by 6, single possession games, even to the point where I'm not saying that they haven't blown people out, they haven't won games, blowing people out, they haven't lost games or they've been blown out. I'm not saying that at all. But if you notice a trend, a lot of their games, Jesus Christ, Jonathan, well, a lot of the games they're winning by single digits. Last one against Houston, win against LA, win against Washington. Like, these are single digit games, especially early on, early in the season, win against Charlotte. Like, they're winning in close quarter games. So you're thinking to yourself, Jalen, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? A couple of things. One, I think more than a lot of other teams give them credit for, I would say that they are built for playoffs. Now, regular season wise, I think they'll be fine just strictly off of these two alone. Just strictly off of Kyrie and Luka staying healthy, they're going to be playoff bound regardless. And the people around them do their role that they're supposed to do. But their actual play style and how they would honestly prefer to be in closer games, opposed to let me not say prefer, but like they've shown that they've thrived in games being closer and thriving in games where they can just hang around with, especially a high power team or essentially a better team like LA, like, early on when they was playing a lot of deep competition. So it's interesting to see them essentially have that type of a mindset where it's like, if we could just hang around with a lot of these teams, we could win. Now, obviously, you would want to blow out a lot of these teams or teams that you're supposed to win. Supposed to beat. You want to beat those teams. However, when you have two of the clutchest players and two of the most offensively skilled players, not just in today's NBA, but in the past couple of years, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Now, again, there's still a lot of basketball to be played. Tomorrow they play the Thunder, who I believe are the 3rd seed or the 2nd seed right now in the Western Conference. So have the work cut out for them. But this strictly is just appreciation. Why'd I say it like that? An appreciation to this Dallas team and Luka and them, and also Kyrie, and also to Jason Kidd, who, side note, was a former Milwaukee Buck head coach. I don't think they should have fired him. I wish they would have kept him. I wish they would have given him a Drew Holiday, given him a Chris Middleton, and given him actual weapons to fucking work with. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, but yeah, like I said, I think this team the ceiling for this team, it would be the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, the bare floor is them not making the playoffs at all or being a play-in team, because being right now currently the 4th seed and 1st in the Southwest Division, they're kind of in that sweet spot. Obviously, they would want to hang around at 3, 4, maybe even 5 seed, which I think would be fine. But come playoff time, I think this team could be built for the playoffs. Now you may be thinking, well, defensively, they're not as good. Obviously, they're not one of the best defensive teams. They have a shortage in terms of defensive pieces. However, there has been times where we've seen teams, where they've offensively are just so good and have pieces and have players to where offensively they could just outscore any team. But defensively, they're either middle of the pack or they're just down there. And with this team, we're seeing a trend of them being kind of teetering. You know, they're in that middle pack. You know, their defense is more to be desired of. However, they can just strictly outscore motherfuckers. So coming to the time where a lot of free throw trips to the line and a lot of high scoring games, you know, those 130, 140 games comes down to like a 100 or 110 or some shit like that. And it's still a lot of points, by the way. I think they wouldn't necessarily be built more to withstand that playoff push because they have two of the clutchest players, two players that perform well in the playoffs, two players that perform well in the fourth quarter, you know, those final 2 minutes, final minute and a half, 90 seconds, whatever the case may be, in Kyrie Irving and in a Luka Doncic. It really, 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 in my opinion, gives them a slight edge. Now, am I saying that they're going to go all the way and win the fucking championship? No, I don't think that is the case because the West is still very stacked. Like I mentioned, they play the Thunder tomorrow. Even though there's teams right now that are still kind of figuring themselves out, you still have to worry about the Lakers. You still have to worry about the Clippers. You still have to worry about the Nuggets. The fucking Timberwolves of all teams, who are the current number one seed in the West, they're still playing a multitude of teams to worry about in the Western Conference. However, I do think that the Dallas Mavericks can be solid. And I do think that they will surprise a lot of people. Is in my opinion, is Luka's award to lose in terms of MVP. Again, barring any significant injuries, I'm not saying that these dudes need to play all 82 games, but barring any significant injuries to either Kyrie or Luka, or even Grant Williams or the phenomenal rookie Derek Lively Jr., Derek Lively, who's been playing phenomenal as well. I think they should be okay. They should be okay. And if they have that mindset of, lock in defense, we just gotta lock in, they can hang around with the best of them. They can hang around with the best of them in the Western Conference. So I think the two things that would really impact the Mavs come playoff time or getting closer to the playoffs would be a mixture of two things. Obviously, matchups. So currently, right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the Mavs, being the 4 seed, would currently be playing, I believe, off the top of my head before I switch the screen, I'm gonna say it's the Kings, but I don't want to put that in the air. It would be the Kings. Not gonna lie, I like my chance. I would like my chances if I'm the Dallas Mavericks in that situation. So yeah, if the playoffs were to start today, they would be playing the Sacramento Kings. I think they beat them in that situation. So it's interesting just for the simple fact of, again, defensively, this team isn't the greatest, but they're not bottom of the barrel. They're not dog shit. They're not, stupid ass butter juice, whatever. They're not super bad. And I think their ability to hang around with teams and a lot of their games coming down to, not final possession, but coming down to the final 2 minutes. And you have a player like Luka and Kyrie where they get turned up to 11 in those final moments. And also you just see that those two starting to gel more and starting to, I think, feel comfortable playing with each other and buying into the system that Jason Kidd is actually, implementing in that area. And on top of that, the fans in Dallas truly give a fuck about this team. I think that is another thing that also helps them, and especially if they get home court advantage. Because I was watching this video the other day about talking about fans and talking about the difference between world basketball, so like FIBA and, you know, the Euro League and shit like that, and actual NBA basketball and fans. And the difference between the two is day and night, because us fans in the NBA, while yes, I am a Milwaukee Bucks fan because my favorite player is Giannis. If Giannis today was to go get traded to fucking Miami, right? I would still have a certain attachment to Milwaukee because I've been rooting for them since 2015, 16, around the time Giannis really started to come into his own. However, we going to Miami, baby. Like I'm in Miami with the fucking Heatles. I'm in Miami cheering on Giannis and Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? And even another personal example of this that actually fucking happened, Cam Newton. Cam Newton is my favorite NFL player ever. Ever. And when he got traded from Carolina to, I believe it was New England the first time, I was torn. I was torn because it's like I've gotten so attached to this team since what year did Cameron get drafted? 2011? 2012? It was 2011. The year he got drafted, and I believe it was 2011. I've been rooting for this team for so long, and then watching the ups and downs of this team, going to the Super Bowl, losing in the Super Bowl, getting Christian McCaffrey and still not being able to, and then it's like, fuck. It's like I really want this dude to do good because he's my favorite player, this, that, and the third, yada, yada, yada. And then he leaves and gets traded to New England. And it's like, well, I really like the Panthers because they had my favorite player for a long time. So I'm going to still be rooting for him a little bit. Hey, but New England, here we come because y'all got my boy. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting with that fact because you look at NBA fans. I really shouldn't even say NBA fans. You would say LeBron fans. We say Curry fans. We say KD fans. We say Giannis fans, Jokic fans, whatever the case. We really don't even say Philly fans. We don't say Golden State fans. We rarely say Chicago fans because it's gotten to a point where it's really just players, like people being fans of the players more than the actual team. And I'm not finna sit here and say like act like that's not the case in the EuroLeague because there's former NBA players over there that people still like over there, things of that nature. But it's more of a fuck who's playing. We just want our team to beat the shit out the other team. That's really all we care about. So with Dallas being one of those really few fan bases that also people like Dallas because of Luka, but when you have an owner like a Mark Cuban that actually gives a shit about the team and about basketball as a whole, and your team is doing good, and your fans actually obviously want to see your team win and do good, but you have something to cheer for, and a Luka Doncic, and you know Jason Kidd, and Kyrie Irving, Grant Williams, blah 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 blah. It makes the whole boiling pot just even better, in my opinion. So I think it's a multitude of things. I think Dallas is in a good spot right now. I think come playoff time, I think they'll be even better. I think they really will shock a lot of teams, in my opinion. Now I could be wrong, and these motherfuckers be first round exits. Who knows? You know, obviously, it's December 2nd. We really don't start seeing what teams are until like All-Star break. So Dallas could fall off a cliff and lose 36 straight in a row. And then at that point, we talk about blowing up Dallas and rebuilding again. Or they could continue having a stretch of games, continue being one of the better offensive teams, and being just one of the better teams in all of the NBA and being all of better teams in all of the West. And come playoff time, they could sneak and really make some noise and possibly be a Western Conference team. I think that is the ceiling for them. Do I think they'll make the NBA Finals? Absolutely the fuck not. Zero chance. Zero chance. No. But I think they could make some noise. I do think that this team will be very good and continue to be very good. And if they do, one, get home court advantage, I think that also helps. And two, make it as far as, say, Western Conference Finals, but be competitive against, say, they go up against the Nuggets and push the Nuggets to 6-7 games. That incentivize Lucas to stay, build more around his team, and then addresses the problems going forward. But only time will tell, obviously. So I just wanted to give that little, not rant, but give that little, my little appreciation to them boys. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. Give my appreciation to Luka and them. But enough about that. We are going to look at the games from last night and also the game from today, because the Warriors, who I was literally just talking about, we're going to talk about the Warriors game real quick, because before I even started recording this, I was doing a couple things. One, I was watching a little bit of the Warriors game here and there. I wasn't too invested in it. The Warriors were up by damn near 20 points at halftime against the Los Angeles Clippers. And Paul George hits the game winner. Paul George is the game winner, and they win by 1. The Warriors fans being in shambles is such a true thing, because holy shit, how do you choke a 20-point lead, 22-point lead, literally straight out of halftime? It was dog. Like, what? It was bad. It was very bad. So that's what really took me so long to actually record this video, because I would have been recorded this an hour ago and probably actually started editing it and do all that good stuff. But I was so invested in this game, and I was like, dog, this shit is going crazy, man. I don't I don't want to turn this off. But let's just quickly go through from what I saw and assess what's wrong with the Golden State Warriors real quick. I'm not gonna do a full little, you know what I'm saying, full little, deep dive into the Warriors, but gotta talk about what the fuck is wrong with this team. So just quickly looking at the stats and the numbers, Draymond was playing his black butt off. Man, at 21, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and was just I think his usual, I forgot I wasn't sharing my screen. Okay. Was his essentially 2016 self back in the finals. He was playing really good, playing phenomenal. He was playing like his usual self, or his prime self, I should say. Moses Moody, shout out to him, because he had a phenomenal game as well. Shot the ball okay, but it's really out there. He's being effective. Dario Saric, no. And the 2 splash bros, you got Clay and Steph. Now, before I give my take on on Clay, let's just quickly look at Paul George and the Clippers. Paul George, please put respect on that man's name. I know coming into this season, he was talking about being the sidekick and being the number 2 to Kawhi, which on paper and makes sense, because for a majority of their careers, Kawhi has been the better player than Paul George. I don't think that's crazy to say. But God, man, Paul George has really been playing like he's the best player on the Clippers, and that Kawhi is the sidekick. I mean, to have that dynamic to where one of them, or either one of them, or both of them, if they needed to, could really just go off and have a good game or have a great game, it really is. It really does help this Clippers team, and I think this is where I wanted the Clippers to be. I thought the Clippers were going to be having this dynamic where they can essentially switch off between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. One game Paul goes off, one game Kawhi goes off, one game they both go the fuck off. So while playing good defense, while being all around and having, just being a good player in the game. So obviously, the whole James Harden shit messes it up a little bit, but all in all, I was really high on this Clippers team. And again, it is still very early. We not even 20 games into the season yet. So we gotta wait and see. We just gotta wait and see. So yeah. On the Klay Thompson. I've been seeing a lot of people saying that Klay should have been traded. Klay should have been traded after the Warriors won in 2016. Klay should have been traded coming into the season in 2023. And I just want to give my 2 cents on it real fast. It's tough because obviously you feel for Klay Thompson because he's coming off not just one, but 2 crazy ass knee surgeries. And he's never going to go back to that old self. He's never going to be that amazing defensive stopper that you can go throw on the team's best scorer or team's, best player or whatever the case may be. And also expect him to go give you like 23, 25 points while shooting great from the field. At this point now, you got to pick and choose. And even then, you're not going to get great defense from Klay Thompson now. And even then, you might not even get a good shooting night from Klay. And that's his whole thing. Because God forbid you ask him, hey, we need you to go get us a bucket without coming off of 6 screens. We need you to go put it on the floor and go get us a bucket. That was the one thing that really separates Klay from before his knee injuries to now. Is why, yes, Klay wasn't crazy putting it on the floor like a Steph Curry. He wasn't putting it on the floor like no James Harden or whatever. You could give the ball to Klay Thompson in a low block though. Back then, you could realistically give the ball to Klay Thompson in a low block, and he would go to work. Post fades, draw attention, kick out, shit like that. Like Klay was actually doing things of that nature. If you don't believe me, go watch. Because I remember this shit vividly. I remember people and First Take and all analysts and shit was like, yo, Klay is a great 3-point shooter, but give that man the ball on the low post and shit like that. Let him go to work. Because Klay Thompson is not small. He's 6'7", for one thing. So he's towering over a lot of these smaller guards, and he can just go to work. Now, not so much. Now, not so much, because Klay essentially abandoned all that physical play, which Klay's never really been a physical player. He's never been I'm going to take the ball and force my way in the paint, or take the ball and force my way into the post. But it was a nice thing to have that option. So if Klay for some reason couldn't get a shot going on the 3, he could still, hey, I need that. Give me that ball. I need that shit in the low post. I got Ish Smith on me or some shit like that. Give me that ball. Or he can still go be productive on the other side of the ball, being defensive wise, and give you solid defense while not maybe shooting the ball well, but still be productive on that team. Now, Klay looks like a former shell of himself. He can't put the ball on the floor. His shot is looking the roughest I've ever seen in his entire career. Back to his rookie year, it seemed like. And it just seemed like he's lost his confidence. And again, I'm not Klay Thompson. I'm not him. I'm not in that Warriors locker room. I'm just speaking on based of what I've seen from him and what I've seen just from this season as a whole, from start to where we are right now. And Klay is obviously not the Klay of old. He will never be that. Am I of the train of people saying that he should have been traded after 2022. Yes and no. Because the thing about that is Clay was so essential to he wasn't the biggest reason they won that game, but he was a very big part of winning that series against Boston in 2022. So you take that and you say, hey, Steph, I know we just won, but we're finna go get Clay the fuck up out of here. We're finna go get some more assets and, get us another ball handler, get us another shooter, or whatever the case may be. That's why I'm so hesitant on 2022, because his stock was at an all-time high. Coming off injury from 2019, looking like his, not prime self, but at least efficient enough to where you could get solid shooting out of him, and he was still playing okay. But really what killed me is, man, that Lakers series last year looked worse than what he does now. Because I think the Lakers defensively just sucked the life out of him. He couldn't do shit. So it sucks, because I get wanting to trade him. I get saying that, hey, you probably should have traded his ass when y'all won, because that was what his all-time high. Y'all could have got a lot of pieces, a lot of things for him in return. But I get not wanting to do that, because him, Draymond, Steph got you all these rings, got you all these championships. And I understand trying to be loyal to them. I think, however, what fucked up the Warriors the most was trading away Jordan Poole. And not, Jordan Poole defensively got exposed against the Kings, and he got exposed against this and that and third. He got a bad attitude, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. Two things, though. However, one, Draymond punched him in the face. And if you look at the video, go look at the explanation. And obviously, neither Poole or Draymond really came out and said it. What was the reason? But if you go look, Gilbert Arenas had a really good video essentially explaining, and also other news outlets, not news outlets, but in other like Bay Area type reporters was coming out essentially saying, long story short, that nigga Draymond punched him because he had personal shit going on. And Poole was on his cocky shit that day, because Draymond was on his cocky shit for majority of the practice. And the one day that Poole snapped, Draymond came in, knocked that nigga in the shit. So you got punched in your face for no fucking reason, essentially. It was a reason, but it was a dumb reason. 2, you're having a bad playoff run. 3, you get shipped off to fucking Washington. And 4, you're essentially blamed for all of the team's struggle. Let me not say all, but for a good chunk of the team's struggle. Oh, we lost because Poole was just bad. Oh, we lost because Poole was bad. Oh, we lost because Poole was bad. And on top of that, the nigga that punched you got paid and essentially told the team, like, if you bring me the fuck back, if you don't bring me back, that nigga, no, he's not going to win y'all shit. You know what I've done. You know what I've brought you. That nigga ain't going to bring you shit. Even though the year prior, him along with Steph was part of the main reason why y'all won in 2022, but I digress. So, it's a lot of shit. So that's why I'm not that hard on Poole. But even if you want to be like, Poole was a liability defensively, and he's too streaky, cool. My second reasoning as to why trading Jordan Poole was dumb: you send him to Washington for a 39 essentially year old Christopher Paul. Make it make sense. Why the fuck would you go get Chris Paul? I didn't like the trade when it happened. I still don't like the trade now, and I don't think I'll ever like this trade. Unless Chris Paul magically founds the fountain of youth and goes back to 2008, I will never like this trade. It's one of the dumbest trades in NBA history, in my opinion. People be like, oh, but the Warriors got a second ball handler. They got someone to run the bench unit. It still doesn't help defensively. Still doesn't help their size problem. It still doesn't help the fact that both Wiggins, fucking Klay Thompson, and all these other people that you would expect them to actually be good are still ass this season. It doesn't help none of that. It doesn't. It doesn't help any of it. So essentially, you traded away your future, hoping that Kuminga is going to finally take that next step, which it doesn't look like he is. Not just Kuminga, but Moody. Moody, even though he had a great game against the Clippers. Hoping that Chris Paul somehow, again, finds the fountain of youth and is able to play alongside Steph and Klay and lead them to a championship somehow. And another thing, I've been seeing a lot of people say that Steve Kerr needs to be fired. I don't think Steve Kerr needs to be fired. I think he is one of the few coaches in the league where they're untouchable. I think there are 3 coaches in the league that are untouchable. You got Pop, Spoelstra, and Kerr. I think those 3 are untouchable. So I don't think Steve Kerr is ever going to get fired unless only way I see Steve Kerr losing that Warriors job is if 2 things happen. They fall off a cliff and don't make the playoffs, or he just steps down, which is probably what we're leaning towards because this is his last year of being the USA basketball coach. So we'll see. But yeah, the Warriors, they have a lot of problems. And one of their biggest reasons is because they fucking brought in Chris Paul. Still don't understand. I will never understand that move. That nigga Bob Myers leaves for one off season. And they make it probably one of the worst trades in NBA history. Get out of here, bro. Man, I feel bad because Klay has lost, I feel like, all his confidence. Steph is having to put up phenomenal numbers every single game, it feels like. Excuse me. It's feeling like he has to put up phenomenal numbers every single game. And if he doesn't, they lose. While he's also very, very old and getting up there in age in terms of basketball years. So I don't know, man. We just have to wait and see. We will simply just have to wait and see with this Warriors team because they had a stretch where they were like really good. They had a stretch like early on where they were really fucking good. They were winning games. You know, they were really solid. They were one of the best teams in the West, blah, 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 blah. And then they just fell off a cliff. Well, I think obviously with the whole Draymond thing and him putting Rudy Gobert in the headlock and him being suspended for 4 or 5 games, I think it was. Ooh, that felt good. Being suspended for like 4 or 5 games really fucked everything up. But nevertheless, the Warriors, man. Warriors. What can you do? So we have a multitude of games that happened yesterday. I'm going to go through them quickly, give my thoughts on certain teams that I haven't been given a chance to talk about. I already talked about the Mavericks, but we have a couple other teams I want to give my 2 cents on, like the Magic, like the Celtics, and Patrick Beverley at 26. The fuck? Like the Celtics and the Sixers, like the Pelicans and the Suns and the Nuggets. So, like I said, we're going to talk about the Orlando Magic, the 14-5 Orlando Magic, the top, I believe, 2 seed in the Eastern Conference Orlando Magic. I'm shaking my head because of this man right here. And I was so hype. I was so hype. I was so hype. I didn't do what is it, award predictions yet for the NBA, which I wish I would have did, because I'm kind of glad I didn't, because Jordan Poole would have been my most improved candidate. I saw this man putting up like 25, 26 and a half points, being really good. Like, essentially that's what Kuzma was doing right now. I thought Poole was gonna be like doing what Cam Thomas was doing, like just coming in and just nigga just can't miss. I thought he was gonna be doing that. Instead, he's been so disappointing this year, and it sucks. It sucks so much because I was rooting for Jordan Poole. I was like, you know what? Fuck Golden State. I want this nigga to succeed. I hope he go out and average 30. I don't even think that nigga's averaging 20. That's how bad it's been right now. So, but looking at the game as a whole, the final score being 130 to 125. They won 9 in a row, them being the Orlando Magic. They're currently down, though, against the Brooklyn Nets. So that 9 in a row might cease to exist. But just looking at the stats, the leading scorer for Washington was Kyle Kuzma, putting up 27 points on 55% shooting from the field. Solid splits have been 3-point shooting and free throw percentage wise. 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks. 6 turnovers is not great, but what can you do? But looking at the Magic, one of the better defensive minded teams, I believe they're top 2 in defensive rating. Um, in terms of defensive rating, I think they're top 2 behind the Timberwolves. I checked it earlier, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, they're top 2. They're ranked number 2 in defensive rating at 108.4. So behind the Timberwolves, who are the best defensive team in the league currently right now. So looking at the leading scorer for the Atlanta Magic, we have Franz Wagner putting up 31 points on 53-ish% shooting from the field. Damn. Nigga shot 12 of 14 from the free throw line, had 7 rebounds, 8 assists, no turnovers, no blocks, no steals. Paolo's been doing his thing, who I think is going to be one of the better players the years down the line, has the potential to be one of the best players in the league, like MVP caliber, but got to wait and see how he develops still, because he's been showing a lot of flashes this year. He's been showing a lot of like really good flashes this year. The front court of him and Wagner, I keep saying Wagner is going to be scary for years to come. Putting up 28 points on 55% shooting from the field, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, no blocks, no steals, but also just being just a good, effective guy. And Jalen Suggs, I would have never guessed that this man would go be a defensive-minded stopper that he is, essentially turning into kind of like a Patrick Beverly type for the team, putting up 15 points on 55% shooting from the field, along with 2 rebounds and 4 assists, with 3 steals and 2 blocks. If this man can up his points just a little bit, because I just want to see his numbers for this season. I just want to see his numbers for this season, because I know, yeah, so he's putting up, let me show this to y'all. He's putting up around 13, 4, and 3. And in terms of steals and blocks, he's putting up 2 steals a game and almost a block a game. So if he can up these numbers to say the 13 to around maybe a consistent 16, maybe 17 points per game, Orlando, man, they're going to be solid. You have one of the better and younger teams in the league, and you have guard that can give you a consistent 15, 16 a night with like 5, 4 assists. Obviously, them assist numbers got to go higher, but give you 4 or 5 assists, 2.5 steals, maybe a block a game. Paolo giving you 25 plus, hopefully. Franz Wagner giving you around 24, 5-ish, hopefully. And on the bench, having a Joe Ingles, a Gary Harris, a Mo Wagner as well, giving you 18 off the bench. And a Cole Anthony, who I think they'll probably trade. Maybe. I don't know. Even though he's been solid for them too. I don't know. It'll be interesting because I think he might get traded, and also having Wendell and Markel Fultz. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see where Cole Anthony ends up because he's not bad. I don't believe he's had his fair share of moments this season as well. But I don't know. We'll see because they already have a lot of heavy guard play, like I mentioned in Jalen Suggs, and obviously they're draft picking Anthony Black, and then Markel Fultz, and then Cole Anthony. So it's like somebody's got to go, and it's probably not going to be Suggs. It's probably not going to be Markel. It's definitely not going to be Anthony Black because they just drafted him. So it'd probably be Cole, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's not talk about all the depressing stuff so soon. But yeah, Magic, one of the better teams in all of the NBA. One of the better defensive teams in all of the NBA, I should say. So yeah, good on them. Even though it's looking like they're about to lose to Brooklyn, so it's probably not going to be 9 and probably won't win 10 in a row, but we'll see. Crazier shit has happened. On to probably game of the night, we have the Boston Celtics beating the Philadelphia 76ers 125-119. The Celtics, I really haven't talked about the Celtics that much this year. I think coming into the year, I think it was apparent that everyone knew that the Celtics were going to be a good team. I don't think that was a shock to say. And looking at the roster, obviously, no Maxey for the Sixers in this game. You got no Maxey, no Joel, and still the game, essentially, they lost by, 6 points? So, I don't know, man. You hear that voice? Y'all heard that voice crack? Yeah, I didn't. Chill out, man. Chill on me. But yeah, it's looking like that Clippers trade is starting to come into a full of effect because without Maxey and without Joel Embiid, the others really showed up. You have Marcus Morris giving you 13. You have Patrick Beverly, even though he wasn't part of the Clippers trade, but still, you have Patrick Beverly off the bench give you fucking 26. 26 and 7. 26, 7 and 8. Holy shit. That's crazy with 2 steals. Imagine if Patrick Beverly was putting up these numbers like consistently. Let me not say 26, but imagine if he was giving you like double-digit scoring off the bench consistently. Let's say he was giving you like 14, like 6 and 7 with like 2 steals and like half a block in. Patrick Beverly would be like in 6 man of the year conversations. That would be crazy. And then Robert Covington also giving you 18 off the bench. And Mo Bamba giving you some action. So, yeah, really can't hold your head too much on this loss because, again, they were without their 2 best players in Maxey and Joel Embiid. So, what this says more, I think, to Philly in regard of than does Boston, who seem to be fully healthy and having everybody. Really not missing any significant players, as you can see. Kristaps. Without Kristaps. But even still, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, these star lineup alone should be more than enough to beat a Philly team that doesn't have Joel or Tyrese Maxey. Leading scorers, for Boston was Derek White and Tatum, both tied at 21. Tatum giving you 21, 7, and 4, along with 7 turnovers. Amazing, Tatum. And Derek White, Jesus Christ, my voice. That was nasty. Derek White giving you 21, 6, and 5, along with still in the block. And Drew Holiday still not shooting worth a damn. Shooting like 36%. It seems like every time I'm watching or seeing like Drew Holiday's numbers, like when I just randomly stumble upon, and it never fails. It never fails. This is probably going to sound like I'm hating on Drew Holiday because he's not a Buck no more. But it never feels that every time I'm clicking on a Celtics game, every time I'm watching a Celtics game, or every time I'm watching the highlights of a Celtics game, it's apparent that two things are going to happen. Tatum's going to have his thing. Jaylen Brown's going to do his thing. Well, three things are going to happen. And Drew Holiday is going to shoot bad. He's going to give you good defense. He's going to give you good defense and just good all-around play. But that dude is not going to shoot the ball well at all. It never fails. It never fails. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Why is it Maxey in the inactives? I see Joel and Kelly Oubre, but where's Maxey? That's weird. But yeah, all in all, good win. It said obviously, like I said, it says more for Philly in their regard to being able to hang with literally the best team in all of basketball right now, opposed to Boston barely beating a very injured Philadelphia team. So, but yeah, all in all, solid win, much needed win. It'll be interesting to see what Philly comes down to because they're one of my favorite teams to watch. And they're one of the scariest teams to watch this year because Tyrese Maxey is full on a superstar, one of the best point guards in the league. Joel Embiid is doing Joel Embiid things. I don't think I need to explain what he does. But it's the others that's really starting to, solidify themselves as like, this team is legit. This team is legit. Obviously, we got to see what they do in the playoffs, but we'll see. Now, the last two games, quickly just wanted to give my 2 cents on the Pelicans because I haven't talked about the Pelicans at all this season. One of the biggest things that I got a lot of, I don't want to say complaints over, but I got a lot of flack over was not, Wemby wasn't playing? Interesting. But that I didn't give the Pels a playoff spot. When I did my Western Conference predictions. And I don't believe I've addressed this, but if I did, I'm sorry. But for one, I kind of saw that I didn't think Zion was going to be healthy. And if he was, I didn't think he was going to be his usual Zion Williams self. And as we look right now, just not even based off this game alone, this has easily been Zion's worst year since like his rookie year. And even to a Zion type of year, like a down year for Zion, he's still having a solid year, putting up 23 points, 6.5 rebounds, or 6 rebounds, and then 5 assists. The last 5 games, he's actually been playing pretty solid. But on the year as a whole, still a block, shooting 56% from the field, and 50% from 3 is crazy. Because I know that nigga's only taking like 1 3-pointer this year, or like 2 3-pointers this year. I know for a fucking fact that nigga's not been shooting threes like that. But what is it? Oh, he only hit 1. Oh, so that's where the 50% came from. He made 1 in the Utah game, but he missed 1 in the Clippers game. Okay. Because I'm like, I know for a fucking fact this nigga's not shooting a 50 clip from 3, like consistently. I knew that was not it. But yeah, the biggest thing that was, I think, holding me back from really giving this team a playoff spot was simply this guy and his health and where he's going to be performing and how he'll be. The last 5 games, he's been solid. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hold you. Putting up 26, 5, and 6 on 60% shooting from the field. Solid game. I mean, solid games, I should say. And they're starting to find their stride. So, I want to be wrong because I like Zion. I was a part of that Zion hype trade coming out of Duke, really coming out of high school. Because I remember like coming home and like watching a lot of his mixtapes and watching him just dunk on literally any and everybody known to man. And then come to the NBA, we all know his story, really just health issues and not being able to stay on the court. So now it's like, well, damn, I know how great you can be. I know how great you should be. But it's like you're not able to reach it, or you haven't reached it, or maybe you did reach it. And I don't know. And another thing is, we don't know how injured he still is. We don't know if he's still suffering from injury, or if he's like not fully 100%, or if players deal with injuries, if really it's a mental block or whatever the case may be, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not in these locker rooms talking to these players. However, it is interesting to see how the Pelicans really bounce, because health-wise, Zion has been relatively healthy to start the season off, but it's apparent that one, he still seems to be out of shape. Not 100%, but this nigga's damn near 290. Zion Williamson is 6'6", 284 pounds, according to StatMuse. I don't, like, you and me both, I think we don't need to be a personal trainer, you or me, whoever's watching this video, to see that probably isn't a substantial weight, or probably a sustainable weight to be playing pro basketball to consistently. Now, am I saying Zion needs to go from 284 or 285 down to like 200? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. However, I don't think he can sustain this and be an effective player and be a really good player and be one of the best players in the league. I don't think so. I think if he cuts down maybe 15, 20 pounds, go from 285 down to like a 260-ish, maybe 255, whatever. And then you would, one, have him be more active on defense, because we've seen Zion with the crazy blocks and crazy spikes and all this other shit. But you can just tell that man be gassed. That man be like out. He was like, that man be gassed on defense. And that's obviously one of the bigger parts of fucking basketball is playing defense. And when you have your best player who has defensive capabilities and defensive potential can't play defense because he's just out of shape and he's going to get tired too goddamn quick, what do you do? So I'm still skeptical on this team. Right now they're 11-9. I think as of right now they are technically a playoff team. Like, I believe they're like either a playoff team or a play-in team. I don't care enough to check. But I know for a fact that if the playoffs was to start today, they would be a playoff team technically. However, I don't think it is substantial, just for the simple fact that I don't know if Zion can keep this up. I don't know if Zion can really keep up this level of play in terms of trying to be healthy and trying to go back to his old ways instead of just trying to just improve on the game that he already has now. Now, do I think that Zion is going to be stuck at a 23, 22-ish player for the rest of his life, and that, he's going to be average and ass, and that, he has no potential left? Absolutely not. Zion, I don't even think he's 25 yet. Let me see. Yeah, Zion is not even 25 yet. So he has plenty of time to get his weight in check, plenty of time to get his weight in check, and plenty of time to get his game back on the right side of, his game back together. However, I don't know if that right scenario, right situation is in New Orleans. I don't think it could be. Maybe he's just in the wrong place, wrong time, and he just needs to go somewhere else. Or maybe maybe they trade something else. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Just have to wait and see, man. Even though it sucks because this team has really solid pieces around them with Herb Jones, with Brandon Ingram, with CJ McCollum, who shouts out to him. He's actually playing again. Dylan, I believe, with the collapsed lung, I believe it was, set him out for quite a while. So shouts out to him for playing again. You got a Trey Murphy or Jordan Arson off the bench. Jose Alvarado, who still, I don't think has played this season yet. But even when he does play, it's like a little Speedy Gonzalez version of fucking Pat Bev. They can actually shoot and be effective on the offensive side of the ball. So they have really good fucking pieces around that team. It's just Zion is just not where he needs to be. So, and the last team that I am talking about for the recap of yesterday's games, we have the Nuggets beating the Phoenix Suns 119-111. But before we even get into the game as a whole, before we even talk about anything, you see that KD makes history. Kevin Durant is officially a top 10 scorer of all time, ladies and gentlemen, even though he shot the ball hot doodle butter ass. Jeez Louise. He had a bad game. But hey, man, buckets is buckets. Put up 30 on 25 shots. Don't matter. Kevin Durant is officially a top 10 scorer. I'm going to get a little big screen for this one real quick. And just let's talk about KD real quick. Let's get a little big screen on there real quick. There you go. I think when we talk about longevity, I think when we talk about players playing past their prime and players being good way longer than they're initially supposed to. Really the only player that really comes to mind is LeBron. Rightfully so. Man is playing in year 21, whatever. We get it. Niggas won't shut up about it. I understand. Rightfully so. Niggas been playing phenomenal. But you have Kevin Durant, however. You have Steph Curry. You have a Chris Paul. You have a James Harden. You have all these players that have been playing well in their 30s. Like, not even like, oh, they just turned 30 yesterday. Like, these motherfuckers are 30 plus. Like, these dudes are like mid going into late 30s. So it's really just showing that a couple things. One, the NBA in terms of longevity, even though we got a lot of players being hurt a lot more, I think that's the price that we pay, is that we have more players being hurt a lot more, but we also have players playing way longer than they're probably supposed to. And that obviously all started with LeBron James. Because when he left Miami, the usual script for a player in their 30s going on to be like 35, 36 or whatever is start to decline. And that's what LeBron was supposed to do when he went back to Cleveland. But obviously didn't happen. Still was one of the best players ever, blah, blah, blah. And we know the story. So I think that is what the trade-off is. We have players that get hurt a lot. We got players that are very injury prone and players that, it seems like players are constantly getting hurt, night in, night out. However, their longevity is being stretched out, and the needle just keeps getting moved down and down and down and down and down. So where like before it was teams and players, by the time a player getting ready to turn 29, you looking like, all right, well, let's go ahead and find his replacement. And now you got fucking Steph Curry, who's like 35, and you could realistically build a team around him. You got players that's like a Kevin Durant, who's like the same age as Steph. You could realistically still build a team around him. You have players like a LeBron James, who was damn near 40, and you could realistically still build a team around him. Same goes for a lot of other players that we've seen to just be pushing Father Time to really its peak, just pushing it as far as it can go. And I don't think Kevin Durant's gonna stop at 10. Realistically, when it's all said and done, Kevin Durant could be a top 5 NBA scorer of all time, an all-time scoring list. He's probably gonna be. He might fuck around and pass Jordan. Like he might fuck around and pass Jordan. Might fuck around and be 2 behind LeBron. Who knows? Because the way that this game is going and the way that these players have been evolving and consistently evolving, only time will tell. See what I did there? Father Time will tell. Anyway, but yeah, I just wanted to quickly use this to just talk about. I know we talk about LeBron's longevity a lot, rightfully so, but when we talk about, I think we kind of gotten spoiled when it comes to talking about longevity because LeBron is playing for so long. But we kind of forget, like, yo, what this nigga Steph doing is not natural. What KD is doing, especially Kevin Durant, coming off on a torn Achilles, not a lot of NBA players should be able to even really dribble a basketball for real coming off a torn Achilles, let alone put up 30 consistently. And Kevin Durant has just made it seem like, I just tweaked my ankle. And they came back like nothing happened. That's not normal. But because we're so used to seeing LeBron, it's like kind of expected. Like, nigga, we kind of need you to do this now. We got, like, it's kind of expected. Like, we need, like, hey, nigga, put some dirt on it. Walk it off. Obviously, when it happened, it was taken very seriously. But looking back at it now, it's like, it happened. It's like, oh yeah, my calf just fucking exploded. And I just came back and was arguably one of the best players in fucking basketball in 2021 on the Nets team. And almost beat the defending champs, or almost beat the eventual champs in the Milwaukee Bucks by myself. But if it wasn't for my fucking toenail being a little bit longer than it needed to be, we got beat. You see what I'm saying? So it's crazy. It's crazy. But like I said, I stand by this. I don't think Kevin Durant's stopping at 10. I think he's gonna. Just for the sake of choosing, I'm gonna say he'll be top 10, top 5. I think he will be top 5. Because let me look. Because I believe he just passed Elvin Hayes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he just passed Elvin Hayes. And I think the ones that are in front of him, what the fuck? I believe the ones that are in front of him is like, he's still got to pass up Shaq, he's still got to pass up Wilt, Dirk and shit like that. So he's still got like a multitude of players to pass up. If I can, hold on, because I can't. Type of motherfucking nigga let my hand out. Stupid motherfucking. I get my guy in that thing now. Here it is. For some reason, it was crazy. Okay, so let's quickly look at the all-time scorers list. So looking at the top 5 off the top of my head, I'm not looking. Oh, it's too late. I already looked. Looking at the top 5, obviously you got Bron, Kareem, Karl Malone, Kobe, and Michael Jordan. So, he passed up Moses Malone. That's what it was. He passed up Elvin Hayes, Moses Malone. Okay, so that's what it was. So you got Melo, Shaq, Wilt, Dirk, MJ, in order for him to be top 5. Like I said, I don't think he's done, or I don't think he's stopping at 10. Realistically, Kevin Durant by next season could be like where Shaq is. Like, he could be 8 in the world, in NBA history in terms of scoring. And I think when it really starts to be all said and done and he's done for real with playing basketball, I could see Kevin Durant be up here. I could see Kevin Durant be either 4 or he's really close to Kobe. I could really see him being top 5. I don't think he'll be fucking anywhere near these 3, just for the simple fact of these niggas is fucking aliens. These 2 are aliens, and then this nigga got spoon fed the ball every single time. But barring any injuries and staying healthy and still being productive, which I think Kevin Durant has realistic like 6 more years in him to be I always forget to change the screen. But realistically has 6 more years to be the Kevin Durant that we know. Or even still, like, I think he could realistically get 5. But yeah, I think he realistically could be top 5 in scoring. Or maybe even top 4, because I think he could pass Kobe if he just still continues this trend of putting up fucking 30 plus. Now, I think over time, it'll start to catch up with him a little bit. So that 30, so right now I think he's averaging 31 points per game this season. So that 31 will probably go down to like 27, 26. Even still, that's a lot. That's a lot of points. That's still a lot of points, and that's still a crazy average. That's not a simple as, it's not like this nigga's putting up fucking 20 or some shit. Nigga's still putting up damn near 30. So if he can still average around somewhere like 28 to 27-ish points per game, I think he could catch Jordan. He could catch Jordan and be top 5. That would be crazy. To put in your resume, but like, I passed Michael Jordan on the all-time NBA scoring list. And realistically could say I am a top 5 scorer, NBA scorer of all time. So, but yeah, man, that is wild. But I just wanted to give Kevin Durant his flowers. One of my favorite players ever. Just wanted to give him his flowers on that. But let's back to the game. It's back to the KD carry job. No D-Book this game. Still no Bradley Beal. So you know what time it is. KD to go do every single thing he possibly can for this team. Yusuf Nurkic did have 30, so shout out to Yusuf Nurkic. But obviously wasn't enough. KD had 11 assists with only 1 turnover. One of his better playmaking games that we've discussed this season with, and I've talked about this a lot, with Kevin Durant having to play make when no Booker's out there and no Beal and really no true point guard that this team has. He has to go from being like a 4.5, 5 assist point per game, assist per game type of player to putting up 7, 8, damn near 10 assists per game. And to see he had a solid game of passing the ball and even defending the ball with the steal and 3 blocks. He just shot the ball bad. If he shot the ball a little bit better, I think they win this game. But also Nurkic giving you 31 and 6. Eric Gordon giving you 16 points per game, and Grayson Allen also giving you 13. It sucks though, because it feels like Kevin Durant hasn't missed a single game this season, and it just seems like either Beal is never going to come back, Booker is in and out of the lineup. One day he's healthy. In the next 3 games, his fucking toe was acting up. Bradley Beal, like I mentioned, his back is still way worse than we could have even imagined. So I don't know what's going on with him. So hopefully we can just see a fully healthy Phoenix Suns team, because it just seems like this man, Kevin Durant, has the worst luck when it comes to big 3 teams. Especially in Brooklyn, Kyrie and KD and James Harden just never seem to be on the court together at the same time for some reason. At one point, it was just Kyrie and Harden. At one point, it was just Harden and KD. It was just Harden and Kyrie. Like, And now it seems like it's that same type of cycle over and over and over again. But now it's just KD and a bunch of role players and sometimes Booker. So we just gotta wait and see, man. Hopefully they can get healthy, and hopefully we can see this team at full strength, and hopefully they can go on to be the number one seed because I predicted them to be the number one seed. So yeah, but looking at the Nuggets, they did Nuggets things. Had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players in double figures, with the leading scorer being Jokic with 21 and 16. Not 16 rebounds, but 16 fucking assists. That man Jokic is so crazy. But yeah, excuse me. That is all of the recaps from last night's games. And as promised, we will do one more segment, and that is booking the main card of UFC 300. Now, I have a couple fights in mind. Obviously, the one fight that needs to happen in order for UFC 300 to be as big as possibly, blah, blah, blah. Conor versus Michael Chandler. This fight, I think, it's a sort of a given. I feel like it has to happen. It's bound. Conor on the 300th anniversary, not anniversary, but 300th pay-per-view event of UFC's history. He's the biggest UFC fighter ever. I don't even think that's really much to debate. Probably the most popular mixed martial artist ever. Also not really hard to debate that. I mean, not hard. It's not hard to, counter argument that. Yeah, Michael Chandler versus Conor. Now, I have in my notes here, I was stuck between having it either be the co-main event or being the main event because for two reasons. One, it's Conor fucking McGregor. His name, regardless of how you feel about him, his name is going to sell asses and seats. It is going to sell tickets. Regardless of how you feel about Conor McGregor, he's going to sell. He's going to sell. He's going to break all type of records. People are going to come just to see him fight. People are going to come just to see him talk, let alone come to see him fight. Like, look at how crazy the Donald Cerrone fight was when he came back after being out for years. And he shoulder pumped that nigga to death, being Donald Cerrone, and beat him in like 30 seconds or some shit. Niggas was already putting him in a title picture. He's only been back from once. Like, whoa, nigga. Let's give him some chance. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say it should be the co-main event because I think Conor is one of the few people to actually headline a main event or headline a pay-per-view without a belt being attached to it. With that being said, however, it will be 3 belts on this card. 300, number 3. Why not have it be 3 belts? I think the main event, if you're going to have Conor, why not have the greatest UFC fighter mixed martial artist ever? Why not have him be Jon Jones? Now, it solely depends on Jon Jones' health. I'm in my headcanon, Jon Jones will be healthy by this time. Jones will able to actually fight, and we could see him actually in action again. So this is just my opinion. If it comes out that Jon Jones will be nowhere in shape or form of fighting at UFC 300, then this whole thing is out the window. But I'm just assuming that he can be able to get healthy by then. So we'll see. However, I won't have him fight Stipe. I think the fight to make is Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. 100%. I think that is the main event. It has always been the UFC champion of whatever division always fights the interim champion. And I get it. Dana White really, 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 really wants Stipe versus Jon Jones. He really wants that. He seems like to be the only person that really wants that fucking fight. However, that is not the fight to make in the heavyweight division. That is not the fight to make. You don't send out a 65-year-old Stipe Miocic to go get fucking ground and pound by John Jones. Because I think one of the main reasons he really wants it is because he wants that double retirement send off. You got Conor beating Michael Chandler, and then in the main event you have John Jones beating Stipe Miocic, and them two riding off in the sunset, retiring, putting their gloves down in the center of the octagon. It sounds good on paper. It sounds really good on paper. It does. However, that fight would just be so one-sided and so not fun to watch. I think it doesn't taint any type of a legacy of a John Jones or a Stipe Miocic, because they're still going to be Stipe Miocic and John fucking Jones. However, this is UFC 300. This is the biggest event of the year. This is the culmination of everything related to the UFC. Why would we want to waste that on an aging, super aged, decrepit ass Stipe Miocic and a John Jones who probably has like another fight, maybe two left in him? Not because he can't fight no more, but just because what's left for him to do? Like, he done beat everybody at light heavyweight. He done beat the number one contender for the actual belt in Cyril Gane. And I don't think you run it back to have him fight Cyril Gane if he beats Tom Aspinall. So after he beats Tom Aspinall, which I think he could do, he retires. He's done. Unless he goes to the PFL and be like, hey, Francis, let's run it up. Some shit like that. I don't know. But that's another video for another day. So I already have the two co-main events. We have one title already on the line. Excuse me. And John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I think that will be the main event, because even still, I think you need to have a belt be in the main event regardless. This isn't just some fight night. This isn't none of that bullshit. This is UFC 300, people. 300. So I think even though Conor is a big name, John Jones is just as a big name. So I think him alone could realistically give you a lot of seats and butts. I mean butts and seats. I said that so wrong. But yeah, so the two main events would be John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, the real main event, and you would have Conor McGregor fighting Michael Chandler in the co-main event. But you're probably looking, well, Jalen, you said there's going to be 3 belts. You only talked about one. The match right before or right after Conor versus Michael Chandler will be Islam versus Charles. Now, Ramadan is a thing, and I am fully aware of that. However, and then also another thing I saw on who was it? DC by being Daniel Cormier was on Aaron Hwani's podcast, and he was talking about, do you do Islam versus Charles at UFC 300? I thought he was going to say yeah, because I think that's 100% the place you do to make it. But instead of him bringing up Ramadan, he brought up the fact that Islam needs to fight in Saudi Arabia, or like it would be better to have Islam fight in Saudi Arabia, comparing it to the two of when the WWE goes to Saudi Arabia, you want to bring their heaviest hitters and things of that nature, blah, blah, and I understand. But holy shit, can we stop? Can we see Islam fight somewhere else outside of Saudi Arabia? Abu Dhabi? Can we see him fight in the States, please? Please? On the biggest UFC card ever? Can we please? And it's going to be stacked as a bitch. It's going to be stacked as a motherfucker. Can we please see him fight on the card in America? Please. Because this is most likely going to be what? In New York? And if it's in Abu Dhabi, let it be in Abu Dhabi. I don't give a fuck. But please, dog. Please. Please, please, please. I'm begging. I'm begging Dana. I'm begging Islam. If you true number one, fight that nigga over here, bro. Fight that nigga in Brazil. Fight that nigga wherever. But like, dog, please. But no, all seriousness, I think because I think what they were talking about Ramadan is early March or like it's in the month of March. Again, I'm Muslim, so if I'm quoting anything wrong or saying anything wrong, just let me know in the comments. And I'm strictly going off what I was hearing and just stuff that I was seeing and like research and everything like that. So he could not do it simply because of that fact. So they were saying like push it back to April or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I believe UFC 300 is in March. Now we're going to look. I'm not UFC 300. UFC 299. So the pay-per-view obviously right before UFC 300 is going to be Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera #2. And that is taking place January 1st. So hoping that nothing gets pushed back. Wait. What? This is weird. I'm guessing, okay, this has to be a typo. This has to be March 1st. This has to be a typo. Because I'm like, why does this say February? This is 298, but this says January 1st. Okay, so this has to be a typo. Never mind. I'm assuming they mean March 1st. So yeah, this is most likely going to be March 1st. And then you obviously have Volk fighting in February, and then you have Sean Strickland and Duplessis fighting January 20th. So do you do UFC 300 later that month? Later in the month of March? Or do you do it early April? Because I believe Ramadan is in the month of March or like early April. So, again, could be wrong. Actually, let me look it up real quick. When does Ramadan take place? Because if it doesn't take place in March, I believe you can do UFC 300 in March. But if it does take place in March, I think you push it back to April, have that fight set up. Okay, so Ramadan, evening of Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, through Thursday, April 20th, 2023. So, looking at a calendar real quick, you have, March 22nd. So March 22nd all the way to April 20th. Do you try and squeeze in that fight? Because Islam and Charles 100% deserves, I think, to be on 100% deserves to be on UFC 300. But if they can't get it done because of Ramadan, it will be interesting to see what fight do you make for that fight in that case. Because let's look at some rankings for the light heavyweight division. Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira. If Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill takes the spot of Islam and Charles, I don't think that's that much of a drop-off. Obviously, a lot of people want to see Islam and Charles more than anything, but I think you can make it work. So, in my headcanon, you have the main event being John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. The co-main event, you have Conor versus Michael Chandler. Third match on that card. And I would think these will all be 5-round events. 5-round matches. So, This is going to be a long ass card. Excuse me. So the third fight, if Islam versus Charles isn't happening, you could do Alex versus Jamal Hill. And the main card is 5 fights. So Islam versus Charles doesn't happen. You have Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. The fourth fight on that card, I think we go back to the welterweight division. Now, the reason I say that is because Leon is taking on Colby Covington. I am of the belief that Colby Covington is going to fight and win. I mean, not Colby Covington. Leon is going to win and beat Colby. I am of the belief that will happen. I don't think that's a hot take to say. So you look at that, and UFC, that is in December. That's literally a day after my birthday. Shameless plug. So if Leon can get healthy enough, if he doesn't take any type of significant damage in the fight against Colby, you could have Leon Edwards versus Benel Muhammad. I know what you may be thinking. Oh, Benel's boring. Benel's overrated. Benel's a crybaby. This, that, and the third. Benel just came off a very impressive win over Gilbert Burns. Yes, Gilbert was injured. Don't give a shit. He won. Or, if you don't want to do Leon versus Benel Muhammad, you can do Leon versus the winner of the Shankar Romanov fight and Wonderboy Thompson. Could you imagine Leon versus Wonderboy in a striking masterclass? Nigga. Or Leon versus Shavkat and also a striking masterclass? Nigga. But I think the fight would be to be Leon versus Benel because they have history with each other already. They don't like each other already, so I think that would be the fight to make. Boom! So our fourth fight. Now, if Leon wins, you do him versus Benel. If Colby wins, you run that shit back. You just run it back. You run it back. You do Colby versus Leon 12. You do Colby versus Leon 2. Unless Colby fucking pulls a Sean O'Malley and be like, yeah, nigga, I'm not going to get a rematch. And goes on to fuck off and fight fucking, I don't know, Kamaru Usman for a third time or some shit like that. Who knows? But I'm under the impression that Leon will win this fight, so I would say you do Leon versus Benil Muhammad for the fourth fight on that card. Now, what would be the final fight? We have the 3 title fights in John Jones for the heavyweight belt and Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight belt, and we have Leon Edwards versus Benil Muhammad for the welterweight belt. We need something to go crazy on. We need something to kick the main card off right on the fireworks. You know, we need to get this shit off. It just so happens that a certain bantamweight fighter is looking to go up to featherweight. It just so happens that we have Aljamain Backpack Sterling is looking to go up to featherweight. And he has his eyes set on the blessed one, being Maxwell Holiday. I think the fight to kick off the main card would be Aljamain Sterling versus Max Holloway. Look at that main card. To kick it off, we got Aljo. And you can set that shit up as a number 1 contender for Volk, too. Even better. You can set that shit up as a number 1 contender for Volk. Because if Volk beats Ilia Topuria, who else is left for him to fight? Literally no one else left for him to fight. He's not going to be jumping back up to fight Islam anytime soon. At least I don't think he will. At least I don't think he should. But even if Volk loses, Most likely, he takes time off. So you set up a challenger in either Max Holloway versus Ilya, or with the number one contender fight being Max Holloway versus Aljamain Sterling, the winner of that fight goes on to face Ilya down and going further in the future. So it's a win-win situation, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the fight that kicks off UFC 300 would be Aljamain versus Max Holloway to kick off the main card, I should say. The fight before that, the fight after that would be Leon Edwards versus Benil Muhammad for the welterweight belt. But if Colby Covington wins, I think you just run it back. You do Colby versus Leon 2. For the third fight, Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight belt. For the co-main event, you have Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And for the heavyweight championship, we have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. That is UFC 300. And I don't even think you got to talk about all the potential fighters you could have on the prelims. You could fuck around and have an Ian Gary, have a Wonder Boy, have a Jack Della, Kevin Holland, Kevin Gastelum, Hamzat on the main card fighting Paulo Costa or fighting Robert Whitaker or whatever. These are just prelim fights, by the way. You could go have a, Benio fight fucking Fazeev or Dan Hooker or whatever the fuck, some shit. Like, you could have so many fire ass fights be on the prelims alone that those fights alone, like the fight I just said with being a Benil versus a Fazeev fight, Ian Gary versus Jack Delia fight, Hamzat versus Costa, Hamzat versus Robert Whitaker, could easily be a co-main event fight itself, let alone be a fucking main event card. So, yeah, man, UFC 300, though that is how I would book UFC 300. But let me know you guys' bookings. Let me know you guys' opinions. Let me know you guys' thoughts. If you think my booking is ass, if you think you don't know nothing about booking, let me know down in the comments below. But that is going to be the end of episode 14. I hope you guys enjoyed. Do them 4 things for me: subscribe, comment, like, and turn on post notifications. It has been me, your gracious host, Jalen. You got Bitmoji, me, and Grogu in a bonnet. And I will see y'all next week. I love you guys. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 14 of the LazyCast. Again, I love you guys. See you guys next week. And I just fucking had a brain fart. With week, I believe 13 of the NFL recap, and just more great news in basketball news and everything news related hitting your gracious ears.